Hey, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Today, I am happy to announce we've got Tony and Joni from Creekside Maples Homestead with us, and we are super excited to have them. Thank you guys so much for coming on with us.
We love to. No problem at all.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So today is part of our 7 F's, and if y'all remember, we've been doing some goal setting for the year and trying to focus on what we want to accomplish, keeping everything balanced, focusing on our faith, family, finances, friends, fun, future, fitness. Didn't intentionally put fitness last. Maybe that speaks to where But as we focus on all of those things, just whatever we're trying to work on, making sure that we don't let anything slip. And before we get into the conversation, I want to say hi to some folks in the chat. So thank you so much for joining Van City Prepper, Lazy Days Ahead with Jesse and Lisa, Fox Holler Homestead. Who else we got here? Mad Acre Farms, hello. Our New Land, hey guys. Hi Kiki over at Urban Girl Gardening and Lifestyle. Thank you for joining. And the Mountain Martins, hey there, sis. Or brother, not sure which one of y'all it is, but good to see you guys. Hi Tim, Tiny Tim Posey. Gray Wolf Outdoors, hello, hello. All right, so Tony and Joni, I noticed you guys on your video that you shared about everything that y'all got done in 2021. It was amazing how much you all got through. And it felt to me like watching that when you did that, you didn't let anything slip. Like it looks like you guys, and I'm sure you guys.
Looks can be deceiving.
But you kept your eyes on what was most important. And that's the whole goal. And that's why I try to use the 7 F's when I'm goal setting. I've used other methods before, and I'm the worst for letting something slip because I hyper focus, and so I want to hear more about that. Lisa, I don't know if you want to add anything.
I'm sorry, I'm managing a dog that has a child.
That's one of the 7 F's, Fido.
I mean, I don't want to distract us, but I just want to be like blunt because I'm a little distracted because Diesel is like a 2-year-old and he's like in the plants, he's in the wood pellets, he's just like, what are you doing? Anyway.
Oh, I love Diesel.
Gosh, what a hot mess this dog.
How old is he?
7.
Yeah.
He's an old English bulldog, so they're fierce and loyal and toddler-like.
Yeah.
So you'll see me go like this on the side of me, going to get him over here. Come here, Diesel. Anyway, I digress. I apologize.
No, that's okay.
I put the 7 F's in the chat for y'all, and I don't know if you're able to pin it to the chat while you're in StreamYard. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think I can.
Okay. And then, but yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing. I think, first of all, what I want to point out before we get into the conversation is you guys have started, is it 2 new channels?
We have 3 channels. Our first original channel is Creekside Maples. That's the launch pad for everything else. Then we were going to go to Maple Mill Acres. We started that channel because we wanted some diversity and to separate some things that we were doing, but we felt that it didn't get the launch that we wanted. So then we went, because we have our Sunday morning devotional time every Sunday morning, we wanted to separate that from our main channel. And so what we did was we started Creekside Chronicles, and that's dedicated strictly to our Sunday morning live streams and all things encouraging and uplifting and things like that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that because I think that speaks to some of your goals.
Yes.
So that's important to mention. And so hello to everybody in the chat. I don't want to forget you guys. I got a little swamped with Diesel there. I got to get into the groove here. But why don't you guys talk about just what some of your goals maybe are for this year that you feel like sharing, and things that you do to make sure that you find balance and yet still work towards your goals.
Yeah. I think for us, and I can't speak for her, but of course, we're pretty much together in this thing. So I think for us to go back to where we start from, because if you don't know where you're anchored to, you really don't know where you're going to get to. And so for us, our everything we do on our homestead is anchored in our faith. And so I think, though there's 7 F's, the number one for us is we, because of our just the way we feel about it. And again, we're no better than anyone else or anything. We're not here judging anybody, but for us, our faith is the key element and anchor for everything that we do. It doesn't matter if we're setting goals, relationship, planting, whatever we do on our homestead, faith is the first thing we do.
Absolutely.
Because you see, faith is for us, and I'll let her talk here in a minute, but faith for us is a daily decision. And I think that's where sometimes people can get a little mixed up with it, because there is obviously in the scriptures, it talks about the faith. And so there is a broad-based spectrum, a generic faith. But then there's my faith, because everyone has a measure of faith. And so I think that for us, we have that spectrum of faith where we are anchored in that. But every day we have to make a decision that we're going to have faith today, no matter what comes. Because let's be honest, life can throw you a curveball.
Daily.
Yes.
Minute to minute sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, totally agree with that. And I mean, also for me, how I process it all, it's simple. We know who created us, who gave us this life, whose breath is in our lungs as we all sit here today. It's because of him. So that to me is motivation. You know, when my feet hit the floor first thing in the morning, I say, thank you, Lord. Made it through another night. I woke up. And thank you for the day that's ahead. So that's kind of that kind of is my mainstay, so to speak, before I even, you know, leave the bedroom or anything. I'm immediately I'm in that mindset. Thank you, Lord. Watched over me through the night.
Don't get us wrong. We're not super spiritual beings that have it all together, because we're not. Because, you know, I'm a very goals-oriented person. I have to achieve something every day. I'm very. I wake up in high gear. I don't. I'm just, oh, hello, day. How are you? You know. And I'm ready to go, and that's the way I live my life. However, you know, in that shuffle, there has to be a place where you still come back,
right?
Because faith. People say, well, I don't have faith anymore. Well, you turned your lights on this morning, didn't you? Yes. Well, you had faith in electricity and you can't see it.
Right.
Yeah.
You see, you take your keys and you put it in your car and you just turn a little key and you have faith that that vehicle is going to start, you know?
Yep.
So for those that struggle with, well, I don't have faith. I don't know how to keep. Yeah, you do. But I think sometimes the bar has been set so high that we get disappointed if we don't get there, and we fail to see, well, hold on a minute. I do have faith. You know, I do believe in these things, and I see, and your day becomes, once you start connecting the dots, you start seeing at the end of the day, when the picture's fulfilled, you see, wow, I noticed I had faith in things I never thought of before. And that brings you back to that anchor again, to where you understand, okay, yeah, I do have faith, you know. You know, so I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
and also I mean, our faith it's like anything. I liken it to, I mean, the Bible says we all have the measure. He didn't get more than me, the Lord didn't give us all certain amounts. He gave us all the same amount. But what we choose to do with it, and I liken it to a muscle. The more you use that, the stronger it's going to get.
Yeah.
And your faith is going to grow for greater things, for greater goals.
Yeah. But I think for faith, and not to keep going on about it, but for us, everything we do has to flow through that filter. It has to. And we have to look at everything we do. And I think it says it this way: whatsoever things are pure, and whatsoever things are holy, and whatsoever things are righteous and right. And we can miss those marks and that filter. And so we get kind of just bogged down with things that don't matter so much. And it kind of puts us in a fog almost, to where we get nothing done, to no goals get finished, because we've lost sight of what our anchor is in the first place. But if you always know, if you always have that anchor to come back to, no matter where you drift through the day, you're not going to get beyond what you're anchored to. And so
I love that.
Anchor, so if your anchor is faith, then it doesn't matter what today will throw at you. You're still going to be anchored to that faith. So now you can handle whatever the day brings, because you know your faith is only going to let you drift so far before it brings you right back to what you're anchored to again. And that's how we have to deal. We do it daily when you deal with the surprises of this life.
No kidding.
Absolutely.
And I think also, because I think in addition to faith, like you've been talking about, right? Because everything goes through that filter. When I look at the two of you, I think of myself and Ryan, right? And the reason why is your teamwork shows through everything that you do, right? So that's your marriage, that's your relationship with one another, that's the times you've spent with one another. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Sure, go ahead.
Definitely. I was thinking on this just a little while ago, and I mean, we're going to celebrate 32 years of marriage here in a few months.
Awesome.
And
what date is that on? No, I'm just kidding.
And
you better know by now.
I do.
34 years of being together. That means from the moment we met and then engagement. So 32 years, that's quite a while. That's a lifetime for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It hasn't all been, believe me, it hasn't all been easy. But for me personally, and I know Tony agrees, no matter what life threw at us in those 32 years, and we have had a lot thrown at us. We just determined that nothing was going to rip us apart. No matter the circumstance, no matter the length of the season, because life is full of seasons, that we were going to hold tight to each other, and of course to the Lord, because the Bible says a threefold cord is not quickly broken. So there you go. There's your a recipe, if I could call it that way, a tried and true. But we just have always maintained that we're going to stick together. We're going to love one another. We're going to be each other's support. And that has pulled us through many a tough time.
Yeah, because after 33 years, she still likes me, and I'm excited over it. But no, and that's when we started this a long time ago, our relationship and things, there's nothing more important to me than family. Nothing. And family, I pastored for a lot of years, I've preached thousands of sermons. But the rule I live by is I have one family. I can get a pulpit to preach in anywhere, but I got one shot at doing this right. And I don't want to mess it up. And so we agreed a long time ago that, because I think sometimes what happens is that people can lose sight of each other, especially when you're raising kids and you've got kids going to hockey and soccer and baseball and church group and youth group and camp and trips. And on top of that, you put in work. And, now a lot of families, both, husband and wife are working, and, all that dynamic until one day you wake up and you're looking at each other, your kids are grown up, and you're staring across the couch and you're going, well, who are you? Because I lost sight of you when we were doing all these other things.
Right.
And I think that is a recipe for absolute failure, because what we did was said, no matter how busy we get, and no matter what we do, and no matter where life takes us, no matter what goals we set, the one thing we are going to do is stay connected. And she's my best friend. And so I don't have anybody else that I would rather go fishing with. I don't have anybody else that I'd rather go hunting with. I don't have anybody else that I'd rather take time with but her. And people say, well, you need time away from each other. And that may be what some people need. We never have, because our dynamic is we've always been together, and that works for us. It may not always work that way for everyone else.
Right.
But I do know this, that in goal setting and in the life and all of these things that we do, if you lose sight of each other, if you start living your life and he or she starts living his or her life under the same roof, but one goes this way and one goes that way, and that continues, well, all that happens is the distance gets greater until one day, what do we have in common anymore? And an old fella told me a long time ago, a preacher, I'm not a mall guy. I hate going to malls. I hate going to do those things. That is not me. Put me in the woods, give me a chainsaw, give me something to build, whatever. But don't tell me I have to go shopping. But you have to realize I grew up, we raised two daughters who love shopping. And so an old preacher told me one time, he said, Tony, if this is going to work, you got to remember one thing. It's not always doing the things you like to do. Sometimes you do the things she likes to do and they like to do. And I've learned that. So, yeah.
No, I think that's really true. I'm not being rude. I'm typing in the chat to folks. So
yeah, that's fine. No, that's fine. So,
but yeah, I agree. I think it's an important thing. I always tease Ryan. This past weekend we were going to go ice fishing. We used to do it all the time as a family when we were younger. We would brave the cold. We'd go out there, and here it is, the two of us this weekend. And Saturday he says, I think I'm going to go ice fishing. And I said, have fun. and it was funny. He's like, you're not going to come with me? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go. I said, all right, fine, I'll go. Because it's not my favorite thing to do. I just always did it. And it was funny. We were having a great laugh because both days we never went. Why? Because we've become fair weather ice fishing.
Right.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Ooh, it's a little cold out here.
Yeah. It's like, let's revisit some of the old things we did. Right. And then when we start, it's like, oh, it hurts too much now. It's too cold. Or no, I don't want to do that now,
And it was funny because we went grocery shopping. We had the grill ready. We were going to cook. We were going to do all that stuff. And then we were like, oh, it's kind of windy. It isn't in the 40s like they said it was going to be.
Yeah.
But so I think it's staying home. But
I think that's okay. And that's good. But what he was really saying was it wasn't about fishing at all.
Right.
It was saying, I just like to spend some time with you. That's it.
Right.
And as men are funny creatures. Trust me, I know. And we struggle sometimes, with those emotions and coming out and saying, I do need you. And can you accompany me on this trip or whatever, sometimes men struggle with that, and so she'll laugh at me sometimes, I'll say, well, I'm heading over here. Do you want to come? And she says, do you want me to come? We have
that conversation sometimes.
Yeah. But I think it's okay to be like that. I think it's good, to understand each other. So
it's so true. It's funny. I think back to when Ryan and I were dating and he had wanted me to come look at this house and I knew where this was going. You know what I mean? and it was just funny, but well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I knew where it was going, but I wasn't one of those women who was like, I needed to hear it, I guess. And he's hitting around, and I'm just like, I was like, look, if you want to look at the house, let's go look at the house. Like, I'm just cutting back. He's like, do you see where I'm going with this? And I was like, yeah, I don't need you to tell me.
When I was in college, my husband and I had a pest control company, and I would go with him in the truck to go out and spray our customers, so we could get time together. Because when I was in college, he took a picture of the back of my head, and he said, "This is all I get to see of my wife," because I was either in class or studying constantly. I homeschooled our girls at the same time. But I would, go out and do the runs with him just so we could have each other's time and attention. Yeah. It is important. Yeah. I agree with that 100%. We're approaching 32 years also. Yeah.
Well, we all will make time for what's important.
Yes, we will.
Everybody will, in every aspect of what's important to you. If it's hunting, fishing, crocheting, gardening, whatever, you will find time to do it.
Yeah.
So it works in relationship of utmost.
And you can get so busy, even homesteading, like there's 1,000 things, that you have to do on a homestead. Yeah. And those are just the things that you're aware of.
Right.
So you can get so busy that you do lose sight of each other sometimes, but that's where you have to make that time count. You have to make sure at the end of the day that you're still connected. And if that means that you've done your thing all day and she's done hers or whatever, then at the end of the day, because that's a rule that we've always lived by, that no matter what today held, it doesn't matter, good, bad, or ugly. At the end of the day, we have time just for us to talk, to stay connected, and get through it. And sometimes that's a conversation around coffee. And sometimes you collapse absolutely exhausted into bed and you just lay there beside each other and know each other's there. You don't even say anything. You just know you're there together. And however that happens, that chemistry has to stay there, or else you're just not in it together anymore, Hope that makes sense.
Yeah. I was listening at a park, of like a Christian park event once, and they had this play going on, and so there was this deep voice, I don't know what holiday it was near, but they were talking about, the things that separate us from the things that are important in God in particular. And they were, one of the questions, I don't remember hardly anything else they said, but I remember this deep, scary voice, and they intended it to be scary, saying, "Are you busy?" Like that. And I was like, "Oh, I'm very busy. This is bad." And I think that is so true, that we let the tasks and the little activities, because some of us who are super task oriented and feel like we always need to be busy, and I can get up in my head and just be up there for so long that I'm not here and present and connected. And that is something that I have to struggle against. And I love that you wake up in the morning, Joni, and your first thought is, "Thank you, Lord, for the day." I do that sometimes, but it usually happens after I've already had a first cup of my with cayenne pepper. It doesn't happen right off the bat for me. And I feel like that's something I could work on, and my husband could work on too, together, because, the teamwork there aspect.
It is. Yeah. Cause I'm a very early riser. I'm up a couple hours before she is. And not that she sleeps in real late. It's just that if I sleep in past 5:30, then that's sleeping in. That's just I've always been that way.
Word, you are early.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. And so she can sleep in till 8, 9, 10, 11. No, she's usually up around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And so, but we still take the time every morning to spend that time together. There's always devotions. There's always that. And I'll tell you right now, if you think that's easy, it's not, because there's 1,000 things that's on your mind going, I got to go start here, this, and this.
Right.
But if you get to that place where you understand that all of that array of stuff will go better if I start with the anchor, the faith.
Mhm.
If I
Yeah.
start this way,
Right.
Mhm.
and we have found that out. We really
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
It does work better. So
Mhm.
See, 5:30. I'm more the 7:30.
Yeah.
Brian calls
Yeah.
me the lazy stetter because I've trained the animals to wait until 7:30 in the
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah. I'm more the 8 o'clock.
yeah,
Well, I'd like to be noon. I'll just because I'll be up until 2. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yes.
That's just brutal to animals. So I found
Yeah.
here's the thing. I found an excuse. It's too dark out for me to go out and feed them because I don't know what coyotes are lingering.
oh, there you go.
So quite honestly, in the wintertime, I've always waited until I could see enough around me
Yeah,
to go out. Summertime, I'll get better, but wintertime, I'm hibernating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did type in the chat that everybody seems to really be enjoying this, and I appreciate you guys giving the feedback and also understanding that it's a little different live. We're not interacting as much with the chat right now, but we are seeing everything. I want you to know that. It's just that we try to pack these full of conversations in the short hour that we have.
Right.
Excuse me. But we will leave room for questions at the end, and I'll tell you all how to do that in the chat. But so I think that your last point you talked about, this is not easy to do, but everything is easier once you start that way. I think that speaks to what Joni was saying was about that's a muscle that you work that gets stronger over time, right?
yes,
Because
yeah.
once you start something, it's hard. But once you do it all the time, it becomes, and I'm sorry, I'm going to use the example. Don't be mad at me. I used to use this in my work all the time. When you have an automatic behavior, it's like flushing the toilet.
Mhm.
Okay. So that usually gets in people's heads, right? Because here I am with a counselor background. That's an automatic behavior that nobody thinks about. And that's similar to like your morning devotions. It becomes an automatic behavior, right?
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And it's good because what happens that we find for us because of that throughout the day, there are little key times when your mind goes to your faith or you're dealing with something, that you're trying to fix and you can't figure it out. Why won't this work? And instead of standing there being angry and cussing at the thing, you go back to that. I had this happen to me yesterday. My father's tractor was broke down and he ripped all the wires off the bottom of it. Of course, he calls me in to fix it. Well, I have no clue because I don't know. I don't know where the red wire and the black and the green and the pink and the orange and all that. And so after 3 hours of laying in a snowbank, I'm soaking wet and I'm shivering and I'm cold. Well, then I simply stood there and I said, Lord, just show me what is wrong. And I crawled back under and I put the wires in an array and shoved everything back on. He drove the tractor home. And people say, well, that coincidence, or I go back to the anchor and it worked out. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good example of sometimes we work against ourselves. Right. So you're sitting there and you're fighting with it and you're fighting with it and you're fighting with it. And it's like when you just walk away get that guidance, right?
Yes.
Or just get that, you had yourself so worked up, you couldn't see it either.
Right. Right.
And it's just, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Because we all get there. We all get there.
Absolutely.
We all do. But sometimes you step back for a minute, reassess, calm down. And I always say a little prayer and it helps. So
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I feel like when I get worked up, I'm going to just stop, like you said, Lisa, and sometimes totally leave that situation, refocus. And then when I come back, I'm going to work it out and not let it work me out.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it's funny because I'm a pretty blunt person. And it's funny, we'll be working on things. And I always tell Ryan, like, you create more work for me because I have to edit out these videos because you have to carry on and swear because it's not working out. And I said, this is ridiculous. So it was really funny because I used to get, when we were first married, I used to get like, oh my gosh, she's getting all upset and blah, blah, blah. What do I do to fix it? Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm sitting there, you know, and I go, you know, because almost 21 years, I've earned it.
Right.
You know, but it breaks the moment up, you know. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
What is throwing the wrench gonna do?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think you struck a chord right there, is that you have to be able to laugh at yourself.
You do.
You know, let's face it, God has a sense of humor. I mean, I look in the mirror and understand that.
That's awesome.
You know, so I think one of the best things is just learn how to just laugh at it for a minute, you know.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, we're all individual, right? Aren't you glad we're not all cookie cutters? And of course, in a marriage and in a family, most often, especially in a marriage, you get opposites together.
Yep.
I mean, that's true for us. I'm sure you guys can relate too, and several in the chat can too. So yeah, you got to learn to laugh at those moments. Tony and I couldn't be more different. Couldn't be more different. But here we are. 34 years together, so obviously we've made that work.
We edit so much crazy stuff out of our videos too.
That is so true, and it takes opposites. It takes people to have different skill sets, and me and my husband totally do. And it used to really frustrate him when I would get lost. I get lost, like especially when we lived in the valley, and I'd have to go to somewhere different. And even if I'd been there before, if it was, I don't know, darker outside, or I had to come from a different direction, totally throw me off. I have a horrible internal compass about those kinds. And he could find himself anywhere blindfolded. And it used to drive him nuts. And but we have that, you know, those opposite skills that really complement each other. Even when we're getting our bug out bags together, I'm like, what do you got in mind? Because he pours, you know, puts all this cool stuff in there. And then I'm like, we need this, we need this, we need, and it really is the two of us kind of balancing things out for everything, for everything that we do and everything that we have planned, for sure.
I think one of the biggest things that I'm learning, because this homestead journey, coming from, you know, 25 plus years in ministry and then starting a homestead, you know, we're not young anymore. We're not old, but we're not young anymore either, you know.
Feel you on that. Yep.
And so for me, I grew up doing this. There's, you know, I am very good at making things, building things and fixing things. And I've done that my entire life. She hasn't. And I think I've seen this on some videos sometimes. I think where some frustration comes is that, and I'm learning this, I can't just assume she knows how. Because she said that different times, she'll look at me and say, well, dear, I don't know how, or I didn't know, or, you know, but for me, because I've done this my entire life. You mean there's somebody that doesn't, you know? And so I have to stop for a minute and realize, hold on, she hasn't done this her whole life. She's been my partner in ministry and music, and music is that's her forte. That's what she does. But her forte is not taking logs and turning them, or handling a chainsaw, or raising chickens, or feeding hogs, or none of those things. And so I have to stop sometimes. Instead of getting frustrated, I have to stop and understand, hold on a minute, just because I know this, I can't expect her to read my mind and know it too. So I have to give her the latitude to learn.
Excellent point.
Yes.
Because it's funny. Ryan is a Connecticut country boy, worked on a sheep farm, FFA, all that stuff, driving since he's 7 years old, tractors and everything else. I grew up in Queens. You know, and it's funny because he's very much a a planner, an overthinker, a this, a that. He could build something. All I have to say is, I want this. He'll build it. And it's great. And then here's Lisa going, so, because I like to learn. So I sit there and I go, so do you do that because of X, Y, and Z? And he looks at me, he's like, oh my gosh, I forget I have to explain this to you. And then he explains it to me. But it's funny because I'm the opposite. I'm like, let's go get pigs.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm impulsive, but I will do my research.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not negligent that way. But it's so funny because he's like, we have to do this. We have to do this. We have to do this. I'm like, we got a building to put him in. We're good. We'll figure it out. You know, and it's funny sometimes, but yeah, that's such great points that you bring up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. I'm going to say hi to a couple folks who have joined the chat. Hi, Bushcraft family, Ark Wildman Survival. Thank you for helping us moderate today. Uncle Al, My Raindrop Life, 1 Million Pumpkins. Thank you all for joining us. Hi, Freddie over at Farm and HVAC and Shadow Scout Swede. And Charles, Fallen Arkansas veteran. It's good to see you. I hope you're having a great day. And Texas Mama MO. I saw this comment from her a little bit ago about we are total opposites, only knew each other 3 weeks, but it's been 36 years. My parents met on a bus and got married 2 weeks later, and they're still married.
Wow.
They are opposites as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to open it up for questions, maybe?
Yeah, let's do it. Does anybody have any questions right now?
So do me a favor, if you have a question, put a capital Q and then type your question. That way it's easier for us to find, please.
And I'm going to share you all's link too.
Oh, okay. I can do that if you want to look at the chat.
Okay. Well, we're waiting for...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering, so when you all sat down and were going through your goals for this year, can you talk a little bit about how you approached that, both from the faith perspective and the teamwork perspective, and keeping things that are the most important in sight, and just kind of share some of your goals for the year?
Sure. On our homestead, there are certain things that happen each season. And for us, for the beginning of our year basically is getting ready for maple syrup season, because maple syrup here is a huge part of what we do. We'll put in over 300 taps this year, and we'll do thousands of gallons of sap and all of it. And so that's huge. Well, then you flow from that, and then you're just finishing that, and you get into spring. So it's ground prep, seed prep, garden prep. And then you flow through that and getting everything in the ground, which you all understand how huge of a undertaking that is. Well, here in the north, things are a little different. Because we have a colder climate, and y'all can understand that. Well, at least you can. Well, I don't know if it's cold in Arizona or wherever, but I think here, then it takes on, okay, now that the garden's in, we have to think about fruit trees and harvest and things like that. And do we have enough jars? And so it's that process. And then you flow from there, and it's into, okay, we have to make sure we have wood. And we have to start getting that prepared, because you can't cut your wood for the winter in December. It has to be cut in the summer.
Right.
And so we have certain things that flow basically through the seasonal things that we do here. Right. And woven in that fabric are interruptions, unplanned events, surprises, breakdowns, financial struggles,
and just life.
Life itself, illness.
Something coming up with the kids.
Both our daughters are getting married.
Yeah, both our daughters are getting married this year.
Oh my goodness!
Wow. Congratulations!
Yeah. So surprise, for us to set the goals, the first thing we do is we start big with those big things that we know are going to absolutely happen.
Right.
And then how do we get there, and dates and time that we take to get that done. And then we have to obviously leave time in there for the other things and the surprises. So for us, for goal setting, we know what we want to do and we know how to get there. The biggest thing for us in goals is simply sitting down together and saying, okay, how much do we want to do this year? Do we want it bigger or smaller? Were we overwhelmed? And I think this in goal setting, one of the number one things in goal setting is just real honesty.
Yeah.
Because especially, and I'll say this carefully and kindly, but sometimes you can get the peer pressure of everyone talking about their gardens and their seeds and this and that and everything. And then all of a sudden, the little guy that's just got a few pots and a few planters feels like, well, I don't even fit in or belong. So I got to go really big to make this, but it doesn't fit into your dichotomy. It doesn't fit into what you're trying to do. So I think for us, goal setting, first, you have to be totally honest. What can we achieve together that will not wear us out, that will not hurt us, that at the end of it, we can look back and say, we could do that. Because I would much rather set smaller goals and achieve them than larger goals and be disappointed that we could never get to that bar.
Or not only the disappointment, but you got stress that factors into that because you're feeling all of that negative, emotions
you
and
made a commitment to yourself or others with those goals, and you're not meeting your commitment, or maybe not meeting it the way that you wanted to, and you're holding yourself hugely accountable. Can you tell I totally know how this works?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what I have to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And we could have easily gotten goats. We could have easily gotten a few other animals. And quite honestly, I don't know that I'm willing to deal with goats. I'm just going to be honest. They're messy.
And that's good.
They break out. I don't know that I want that. I think I really like my Kuni pigs. We're breeding them this year. And,
awesome.
Ryan's first word, because of course that was how I got pets. Right. Because they have to give value, right? So I have, two boars and two gilts that we're going to use as breeders. And it was funny the other day, Ryan and I were having a conversation. He's like, well, maybe, he goes, well, what if we can't sell the piglets? I said, well, you're never going to know until you do it.
That's right.
I said, we're going to have a lot of pork in the freezer if that's the case.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, we'll figure it out. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but I'd rather do that per se. Versus chasing goats in my neighborhood when I don't want to.
Exactly. You can't let fear hold you back.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to use common sense. Exactly.
And for us, when we talk about weaving things in amongst the big gold tapestry, and for us, you have to be realistic with that, because going into it, you have to realize, okay, if you're going to get more animals, you're going to need more food.
That's right.
Because there's nothing worse than getting animals that you can't look after just to have animals. That's not right. And so you have to look at everything that you place on that goals list and say, is this reasonable? Is this doable? Is it affordable? For us, like we raised 3 pigs last year, we're going to do 4 pigs this year because we found out that 4 is not going to be any more difficulty than 3, but we could have sold twice as much pork as we did this year. And so for us, it's a trade-off, because do we introduce a 4th pig this year? Yes. Why? Because we know we can already sell that.
And not only, but we're jumping that up just a bit. We're not. We're going to do 6.
No.
Because it's just the 2 of us, and we do it all. We send them off to the butcher. We do it all. We wrap them, we weigh them, we package them, we have the orders for them. So it just being realistic, I think, is key. Like you said, be honest, communicate with your spouse, with your help, with your family on your homestead.
Because you have to talk it over together.
Oh, definitely.
Because I can't just wake up one day and submit to her a list of what we want to achieve this year, because that's not fair to her.
Right.
Because because I can have all kinds of grandiose ideas,
Mhm.
but if she feels like that list is more important than our time,
Mhm.
she's not going to commit to the goal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she's now going to feel like I've placed something more important than her in between us.
Right.
And so you have to balance those things. You know, that's why it's so important. If you're going to set goals, set them together.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I can't go to the shop and bring in my list and just say, this is what we're doing, end of discussion. It doesn't work that way. She may want a larger flower garden. Now it's that's not important to me, because to me, a flower garden doesn't, it's not going to support the homestead. However, that flower garden is important to her because it enhances her part and her contribution. And so
Right.
it's just as important to her as saying me getting another log on the mill. And so when you're setting your goals, people have to understand I'm going to come from a male perspective. She's going to come from a female perspective. And they're never going to really totally look the same. But if you can meet in the middle and set those goals together and say, okay, let's
Right.
compromise. We'll do this and this and this on your list, this and this on mine.
Right.
And then we can get somewhere with it.
Because both perspectives are important and
Yeah.
they both have value.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like you were
Absolutely.
mentioning about the bug out bag.
Mhm.
You know, like certain items where you're like, yes, that's good, but we need this in that bug out bag too.
Mhm.
Same thing in life.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you, when you've been with somebody for so long too, if I didn't have my husband, it would be like not having a limb or two.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because over the years you just develop. And I met my husband when I was 19 and we've been, inseparable ever since.
Yeah.
And, I'm long ago was I 19. So
I hear you.
yes. But so that's part of it too, is like, developing some of our goals. My goals are around like developing certain skill sets because I rely on him, for a lot of things. And then there's things he doesn't have any much interest in. So I kind of,
Right.
I'm the one that does. So I'm taking that route with things. But I found that when I was setting up my goals, I asked him about his goals and we talked about them together because we each had different goals. And actually we had some of the same ones, but we put them in different priorities.
Right.
So I think that it's really good, definitely, to connect with, your spouse and get all that organized and
Yeah, for sure.
figure out how you're going to do those important things. And I love you guys' approach to that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. No problem.
We have a couple questions in the chat, and one was from Die Bullfrog 79, which is Uncle Al. He was asking about finances for the homestead. So I'm assuming like any suggestions on how to handle finances for the homestead?
I think you have to, again, go back to being brutally honest with yourself. You have to know, here's the thing, budgets can't run at 100%. They have to run at 80%. And we learned that a long time ago, because if you continually set your budget to 100%, you'll spend 100%. You've got nothing left for emergencies or anything.
Right.
And for us, and so for us, when we came, because we moved back here from the United States, and it was set up pretty good. We knew what we wanted to do, but then I had an accident, motorcycle accident. And long story short, I was disabled with those injuries for over 2.5 years waiting for the surgery. Couldn't do anything.
Wow.
Yeah. And then after the surgery, another year of physio, could not work. And so I will never be able to do what I used to do. So that had this huge adverse effect on us financially, because we had everything, lined up. We had a 5-year, goal set of where we wanted to take the homestead, the house, everything. But in one instant, all of that was gone. And so we've had to totally revamp and replan how we do everything, because my earning, my income potential was gone for a long time.
Wow.
And so then you have to look at it after you get beyond the anger and you get beyond the frustration, you get beyond the fear. The worry's always there because, you know, how are we going to keep doing what we do? And that's where you have to get very honest with yourself and ask the hard questions. What do we need? And what don't we need? And the things you don't really need, you let go of. You sell them. You do what you have to do to survive. And if that means you don't have X, Y, and Z, then you go without it.
Right.
But it's better to have this much that you can afford than this much you can't.
Right.
Right.
And for us, it shocked it was tough. I'm telling you, I'll be brutally honest here, and she can testify to it. There were days that we didn't have enough money to go buy a gallon of milk. It's $7 here where we live. And when you get down that low, because people look at your home and they look at your truck and they look at this and they assume, oh, well, they're doing great. They're, you know, but the truth of it is, and again, to be totally transparent, the facade can convince you of a lot of things, but the reality is where you really live.
Right.
And so for finances, for people that are just starting, if you can go into it debt-free, do it. If that means you got to drive a secondhand beater truck, then drive the secondhand beater truck. If that means you can't afford a new tractor, then settle with a good secondhand one if you can afford it. If you don't have the funds to go get that nice and shiny thing, don't try to keep up with the Joneses on your homestead. Do what you can do. And if you can't do it, then be honest about it and don't put yourself behind the 8 ball because you will wish you didn't later on.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. Why do you think we're doing all this on 2 acres right now?
Exactly.
Land in South Dakota is geared towards tourism, and it is off the charts. I mean, I'm talking off the charts. It's insane.
Yeah.
So we had another question in the chat from Tim Posey, which was, with each of you on the panel, what is an annoying thing that the spouse did that you found out after marriage?
You got an answer, dear?
You guys go first.
I don't know that I could answer that fairly because my husband and I didn't necessarily do it right. We were together for a while before we got married. So I don't think I could give a good answer to that. But when I met
walked in the door.
Remember, I met my husband when I was 19. I was auditioning for his band with my fake ID. And I was just completely, I can still remember, I can vividly picture in my mind when I was auditioning, him leaning up against the back wall with one of his feet on the wall and just watching me sing. And I can remember that. And what I didn't know was his niece was there that day. And he said, see that girl up there? That's going to be my wife. And he didn't even, I don't think even meant it when he said it. Little did he know. But I don't know. You know what? My husband and I, that's my husband. That's my best friend.
Yeah.
And I won't I'll start getting emotional because I love my husband.
That's fine. The same way.
Yes, but we're best friends. We consider each other our assignments. So you guys, I'm crybaby. I gotta warn everybody.
No, that's fine.
I can't say he does anything that annoys me. I'm probably the more annoying of the two of us, and some of you might not be surprised, but I totally am.
Same here. I mean, look, I can't think of one thing per se. I mean, you know, I could say, the laundry's on the floor, but you know what? It's over 20 years. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, he does that.
But I think the coolest part is just saying, the laundry's on the floor. The hamper's right next to it.
Yeah.
We can have that conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for us, and I can't speak for her, but I know for me, I've said this 100 times to people. the Lord gave me the right lady for me, because he knew what I needed in a wife. And so I think there's always little idiosyncrasies and little irritation, we call them hot buttons that everyone has.
Yeah.
And we learn those things. But none of them really matter, okay, so you left that on the floor, you didn't put that away, or but in the grand scheme of things, you might say a sarcastic remark, but at the end of the day, it's not defining who you are. I think for us, I can't think of anything really. I think she's great.
I tend to go down bunny trails.
Well, yeah, I mean,
yes, me too.
Jody.
I think that's just a female thing, and as we get older, we just got so
train
much
of thought talking.
Yeah, because one thing she does is that she does a play-by-play in what she does, and our daughters tease her all the time because she narrates. Because she'll be on the couch. Well, I must get up. I'm going to walk over to the kitchen where I'm going to pour myself a glass of water. Then I think I'm going to have a drink. And from there, I think I'm going to put some dishes in the dishwasher and then put this away and go do the laundry. I'm going to be downstairs, Tony, and it's like, okay. Like, here's a whistle. I got a jersey on. I'm going to blow it. Time out. No, it's all good,
Joni, I do that too.
I know, and it's the craziest thing, and I don't even realize I'm doing it.
See, men are waffles,
yes,
and women are spaghetti. They can go all over the place, and you all know what y'all talking about.
Yeah,
but a man is a straight line guy, like
that's right.
And we're standing there going, what?
I think George nailed it. She's planning. That's what we do. We're planning. We're talking out loud, getting everything.
She's psyching herself up.
I don't know. So, what would you change about me, or what's the most?
I don't know.
I gotta hear this.
I don't think of anything, Tony. Honestly, and that probably sounds maybe sappy and cliche, but
no, not at all.
He doesn't.
And there's people sitting there, and they're watching and going, "Well, y'all wouldn't say anything mean anyway. You're sitting together." No.
I mean, he really doesn't, irritate me or irk me. I can't think of anything. I mean, I appreciate our differences.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I do, because it keeps the balance. Keeps the balance. Okay, here's an example. Tony's a very funny guy. He's very spontaneous. He's very outgoing. He can talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere about anything. I've got to take my time and plan it. I got to research it. I got to get my thoughts together. So I've said, can you imagine if we were both the same? Oh. If we were both the same, if we were both like me, we may never get invited back. If we were both, because we'd be too boring. If we were both like him,
they'd ask us to leave.
We may be too much.
You guys are great. Perfect pair. Awesome. I saw a comment from someone earlier, and they were, I think it was my brother, and he said, I feel like you have to have many things in common to have a great marriage. We do. So my husband and I, we both love music. That's what we do. That's an important piece of my life. I grew up with it. With the family getting together and playing music. That's how my brother and I were raised. His wife is a musician also. So I feel like that common ground, and our common ground in our faith and kind of, what we want out of life, those big things are there. There's like a lot of things my husband's really good at, and maybe some stuff he enjoys a little bit more than I do, and stuff I enjoy a little bit more than him. But the biggies make a huge difference, I think.
I think that's so true, because you have to have some common ground to start with.
You do.
And then I think in betwixt all of that, you can have your individuality, but your individuality cannot overrule your commonality. Because if it does, you know, I used to counsel a lot of people. I have a degree in family psychology and stuff. So one of the things I would hear in counseling people is, well, I just want my own time. I just don't want to be involved. I said, why'd you get married? You know,
Yeah.
because if you want to do everything alone,
Stay single.
stay single.
Save
Yeah.
everybody
You know,
the trouble. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you have to understand that there is a balance between that common ground. There's also things that it's okay if you want to do them alone,
Right.
Mhm.
but you can't base your relationship on, well, I want to be alone, you know, all the time,
No.
because then it's not a relationship at all.
Mhm. Very
Mhm.
true.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's funny. I seen that cruising scene.
Cruising
That's
scene, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm
It
not
is
the
awesome.
only one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Texas Mama says, I think our common ground is Jesus, and that's enough.
That's a
It
good
is.
one.
That goes back to our anchor, you know.
Full circle. We've
Yeah.
come full circle here today. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm going to revisit some of the things you guys said that I think were awesome and see if anybody's got any questions before we close. We typically try to keep ourselves at like an hour for roughly. So I love how you said when you're thinking about your goals, know your anchor. And if your anchor is faith, remember that in everything that you do. And I love that. I love how you mentioned, see my little pen, I've been taking notes. When
Tammy's
setting
got a roll of toilet paper she writes on.
address big things first. For but if I didn't have paper, I totally would, Lisa.
I was just laughing because I was like, our relationship is like a marriage. You know, I'm sitting over here with my little Australian flags, and you're over there taking notes. And
For budgets, we had, I think it was Uncle Al ask about budgeting, and you said all budgets should run 80%, not 100%. And I always tell my kids, like, guys, don't spend everything, but everything that you make sure you have some put back. That's what you got to do. But I love how you put it. It's more specific. I like that. And then also when you were chatting, you mentioned, you know, at a certain point when you injured your back, you guys really had to assess what you need. And we went through that too when we moved from the valley up north here. We downsized the size of our house, and we got rid of so much. And I found that it felt amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rid of the stuff.
Yes. It's very liberating.
Yes. And so my husband and I, as a matter of fact, we're talking about doing that again, like going through our stuff and, you know, getting rid of the extra because we're doing that again.
Right. Yeah.
Keeping too much.
Absolutely.
But assessing what you need and eliminating what you don't need. And I think that was just wonderful information and advice to share with us. So
And I think a lot of
Lisa,
people
anything.
I was going to say, I just think that a lot of people don't realize how freeing it is because, you know, Ryan and I have had similar situations where, you know, we were selling one house, buying another, and one of us was working and paying for all the inspections and the closing and this and that and the other thing. And things were really tight and just having to pull together. And then, you know, now just realizing you don't need all that stuff. It just creates stress.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. But I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on today and talking about things because you really raised some really great points and everybody has really reacted positively to it in the chat. And that's our goal for this. So really thank you. It was an honor to have you here today.
Oh, thanks for asking us. We really enjoy this.
We did. Yeah. And thank you for taking this on.
Yeah.
These topics are so important.
They are.
There she is.
I really like these I really love these real life issues.
Right.
Because they're lost in the shuffle, the juggle of YT and all of that, and, you know, YouTube and everyone's out trying to get this and that. But there's a platform here that we can use to really encourage and uplift and help and strengthen. And I think that it's okay to do what you're doing. I think it's great. Because what you're doing, if people can take some of this and go home and say, okay, I heard this on their live, and man, it's really helped our relationship or our finances or our goals or whatever, then it's well worth it.
That's right.
Yeah. But we thank you for what you do.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
And
Yeah.
again, the Bible says iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good point to maybe end on or whatever. I mean, that's why we're all here. We all bring different things to the table. We all have unique skill sets and giftings and talents. So we all can learn from each other.
For sure.
Great.
Because when you stop learning, you're no longer living. Life is all about living and growing and adapting.
I'm going to write that down.
You like that one?
That was something right there.
I'm right.
And that was not a bunny trail.
No, you did good. Next thing you know, he's going to have that on a tee. Watch out.
He just might.
New merch coming soon.
You're funny.
So everybody, next week, our live is going to be on Yogi Hollow Farm's channel. If you're not already subscribed to her, go subscribe to her so that way you will get the notification for that. And also, real quick, congratulations to Lisa for hitting her 1,000 subscribers.
I know.
And
Thank you.
I know you're so close to those watch hours, and I know they'll come, Lisa, but I hope you don't mind me asking everyone in the chat if you guys could go and over to her channel and run her playlist, watch some videos over there that interest you, or just run the playlist to help her out. That'd be awesome. I would love to see her get monetized sooner rather than later. She's so darn close, just a couple hundred away.
Yep, I think we just hit I think we're at like 199 now, hours
Awesome.
away. But I do want to let folks know, always stay tuned to the my community tab, because we do this on a bi-weekly basis. So we're on Tammy's this week. We're going to be on mine next week, and then it goes back. And so I always try to either post the live, obviously on my channel, and it's at the top of our page, or you'll see it on the community tab when it's on Mtn Grandma. So just keep you guys posted on that. And thank you, everybody. I appreciate the congrats.
Yep. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you again, Joni and Tony. I feel like I got a lot just from being able to ask these questions of you guys and talk through what some of my challenges are. And I hope this helped everybody in the chat too. Sure appreciate all of you.
Well, we thank you for having us. It was great.
It was
enjoyed
fun.
it, so anytime.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and everybody have a great rest of the week.
All righty. God bless.
Bye,
Take
all.
care, everyone.
See you next week on Lisa's.
Okay,
See ya.
bye.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.